yesterday, and well done to everybody that took part in that. So local rugby from the weekend. You might remember on the show last Monday, we were joined by Tenby's head of rugby, John Evans. Gord, he told us all about their trip, didn't he, to Wrexham. They were leaving Tenby about 7:30. A good few hours, wasn't it? 155 miles. You said you go the Aberystwyth way. I was going mid Wales, but that's fine. We'll have to find out which way they actually did go. But what John said was it will be so much nicer if we come back with a victory from Wrexham, and they did. 21 points to 19.
That's no mean feat as well, because that is an early start. And the time you have breakfast, have a couple of pints before you get up there, and then, get in the changing room and, psych yourself up, go out, play the game, and get the W. That's the most important thing in any cup game. And fair play to the Seasiders. They're having a good season. I know Lloyd Thomas was back at fly-half on Saturday. He kicked 11 points for him. He's an assured fly-half. Even though we spoke about it last week, they got an abundance of young talent coming through as well.
Yeah, so, double cup win actually, Athletic winning as well, didn't they?
They did as well, yes. Cup, So, excellent. Well done to Tenby.
The rugby club looked pretty quiet when I went past it yesterday. I think I left Tenby before they were home.
Probably, mate. Probably.
Yeah, we can imagine that coach, though, Phrase. That coach trip back from Wrexham would have been worth being on, I think.
Yeah, well, the old school away trip, I think. They would a few youngsters might have gone on that trip as boys and come back men.
They certainly had a baptism. Don't worry about that.
Definitely. In fact, we sometimes get people from Tenby watching the show. So if anyone was on that coach and wants to drop us a message to tell us what the journey home was like after that win, do let us know. But well done to Tenby. John will be delighted with that 21-19 win away to Wrexham. Let's stick with rugby, and we'll get some views on this as well. But what does the future look like for rugby in Pembrokeshire and in West Wales after the announcement from the WRU that came out last week that one of the professional regions will be cut by 2027. They will fund 3 teams based in Cardiff, East Wales and West Wales. So, of course, that means that the future of the Ospreys, who are in Swansea, and as we know, the Scarlets internationally now, is kind of up for question. Phrase, it's almost been a badly kept secret, this, in a way, hasn't it? We've speculated about this for some time on the show, that this would happen. But when you read it in black and white and you just think about the connotations for rugby locally, it's quite hard to take in, isn't it?
It is. Look, it has to happen. There has to be a cut in the pro teams in Wales. I don't like it. People aren't going to like it. But it's just the practicality is it is not financially sustainable to run 4 professional teams in Wales. I wish it was. So a change has to be made. You're right. It's been a badly kept secret, and all this latest conclusion has done is kick the can down the road. Essentially, we still are slightly in the dark about what is happening. We know it's going to be cut by 2027. We assume that'll mean at the end of the 2025-26 season that's clarified, and we don't know which one's going to be cut. But certainly, the model they're looking at the moment suggests to be one of the West Wales teams cut, which, makes very little sense to me. You can argue the geography as much as you want. I do believe you need a team in Cardiff. Gordon may disagree, but I think it is the capital city in terms you've got to take into account the financial aspects of it now. It'd be naive to ignore it. Cardiff is the place for away fans, which is easiest to travel to. It's going to bring in the most revenue. You need a presence. You need a professional club team in Wales from there. To then have Newport a few miles down the road when the Dragons have struggled so badly for years, for me makes very little sense. Logistically, you would go Scarlets, Ospreys, and Cardiff. There is the argument, of course, that the Ospreys have moved out now the Swansea.com stadium, so they don't really have the solid base for a big away following, if you like, whereas Newport have got their own home with Rodney Parade. But this is 2 things which stick out for me. One, it appears like the wrong proposal, and 2, again, it's just a lack of decisiveness. It's just, as I used this phrase there, it's kicked the can down the road. It's delayed things. It's something which it needs to be done. It needs to be decisive. It needs to be done at the end of the season. I don't see what waiting another year is going to achieve.
So you think, Phrase, basically, this has to happen. We can't have a scenario where one of the regions can be saved and we sustain 4 regions in Wales going forward. You don't think that's done? That's off the table.
The player pool's too big, the quality's diluted, and we can't financially afford to run 4 professional teams in Wales. Those are the last factors most prevalent. But we can continue to run 4.
Gordon, what was your kind of reaction to it, and how do you feel?
I agree with everything that Fraser said there, but what I don't agree with is that the WRU are they bottled it. They've made a decision and they've gone back on it. That's what I think. Yeah. They know they have to cut it. They've just moved it on another 2 years now, which basically they can't afford, but they're going to do it. They're going to cover the costs whatever way they're going to do it. Yes, I agree with Fraser saying Cardiff are the capital side, they will stay. And the two sides down west, Ospreys and Scarlets, got such a proud history compared to, I will say it, the Dragons. The Dragons have never been as, they'll be upset. Nobody wants to lose their region. But you have to look at it and see the successes that the Ospreys have had in the past, the Scarlets have had, and not so much Cardiff, to be honest with you. But the Dragons are the least likely club to actually, be able to sustain. So it is tough. It's a tough decision, and I'm bitterly disappointed the WRU haven't gone and made a decision now, because it's going to cost them money in the long run again. It's awful that players are going to lose their jobs or they'll have to move on, but that is what it is. They can't afford to keep it as it is, as Fraser just rightly said. So yes, they should have made the decision now, in my opinion, not move it another 2 years. They just prolonging the agony in my eyes.
And hard for those clubs to operate, Fraser, as well, in uncertain conditions, really, because it's very difficult to future plan from a business case as well, when you don't really know what that future is actually going to look like, or indeed if there is a future.
Yeah, of course, sure. You've got players now, worrying about their livelihoods in the next 6-12 months, and you wouldn't blame any of those players if they do get offers from abroad. England, France, what have you, lucrative ones who are going to financially secure their futures, then they're going to have to go, aren't they? You can't stay around in this uncertainty, not knowing if you're going to be employed in terms of the 2026-27 season or whenever it is this change comes in. So, yeah, you're absolutely right, Ben. They're playing amid uncertainty, which isn't helping. It's not going to help.
I'm just quite interested in what the teams said, and we should probably just mention some of the statements that came out. Now, the Scarlets said they were encouraged that the WRU has recognised from the consultation process that brand, cultural identity, heritage and connection to the Welsh language is irreplaceable. Their statement went on to say rugby must stay connected to its communities, people, history and its values. That's what gives our game its soul. We want reform that strengthens Welsh rugby. With Scarlets in the future structure, Welsh Rugby keeps a proven talent pathway, an internationally respected brand and a first-class home for rugby at Parker Scarlets. The Ospreys made similar points around the fact that they are Wales' most successful region, having won more league titles, produced players who've won more Welsh caps and had more players selected for British and Irish Lions tours. They say they're continuing to engage with the WRU with the intention of reaching an agreement that continues that proud tradition. So just reading what the WRU have said and the plans for that one Cardiff team, that seems to be, as far as you can see, set in stone. And then one from the East and the West. So as you say, and whoever wants to pick this up, but as you say, it does seem that decision is we'll lose one of the two teams based this way, so the Ospreys and the Scarlets. What's that going to look like? Because also, you're talking good stadia as well as players. They're just going to shut down decent facilities too.
Right.
It seems mad. As someone looking in from the outside, guys, this still seems complete madness.
What you will shut down is you shut down a fan base, right? And unless one of these three new teams has support, and we know how it works the same way in football and same way in rugby, has initial success, and I mean success is in competing for league titles, European Cups, and picks up a bandwagon and picks up support, like Welsh Rugby does when it's on a high and attendances drop when it's on a low. You're not going to get the fans base there to, financially remunerate these teams. Gordon will say it. Gordon, I'm sure, will agree with me. It's all well and good people from the outside saying, "Come on, for the good of Welsh Rugby, get behind this team, get behind that team." A lot of these fans, they've got historical roots, just like yourself, Ben, in Tottenham Hotspur or whatever. Gordon, Man United. In Welsh Rugby, me Swansea. Same in Welsh Rugby. Gordon knows it better than I do. We both played for Llanelli. He played more than I did, and he played in the era where it's perhaps more passionate than I was. Your local people, lived and died Llanelli. They then they got away with it in region when it turned regional and away in Llanelli, and that it became the Scarlets. So you could almost argue that you weren't changing sides. It's a lot more troublesome for the Ospreys because you're asking rivals, Neath and Swansea, to join forces, so to speak. And then you had the kerfuffle, of course, with the Dragons, the Celtic Warriors and everything, you know. So you've already got a slightly disenchanted fan base anyway over the years, which doesn't have the same passion, the same feeling it used to. If you ask them to go and support a new team, which is Scarlets Ospreys, again, you're going to lose another 5-10%. Again, the reality is, and whether it's right or wrong, whether you argue against them or not, I speak to a lot of people now who are saying, I don't bother with regional rugby anymore, professional rugby, I just watch the local game. You know, there's so much noise, so much political mess, so much uncertainty around it. It's turning people away. Now, if you're going to merge this team, right, Ospreys, Scarlets, Llanelli, Swansea, West Wales, whatever you want to call it, you've got to make damn sure it's successful. You've got to make damn sure you're giving a fan base something to follow. Because if they don't, right, this could be disastrous because you will merge all these resources, all these players. You completely streamline the talent, which I don't think is a bad thing. I think there are too many players without professional talent diluting the 4 teams in Wales. And we'll talk about the ramifications maybe for Pembrokeshire that in a moment. But if you're going to do this, you need this team to be successful and you need to give people a reason to turn up and go there, because if they don't, you're talking empty stadium.
To get to this stage, Gordon, regional rugby's failed, hasn't it? In Wales,
I wouldn't say it's failed, Ben. You know, the Ospreys are the most successful club, and when they were in their, you know, pomp, they were playing some really good rugby, and they were probably at that particular time, and it's not that long ago, they were probably one of the best sides in Britain, no question about that.
Europe.
Europe as well, they were, and you know, so we talk about talent. We've always had talent, no matter what generation you go to. It's just that we're going through a bad period, and it seems to be made even worse now with the state of the game and the state of the national team. It seems like that we're all got a big load on our shoulders. Welsh Rugby will bounce back, but they have to get it right at the top and filter it through the whole system. Another thing I'd like to see them do is probably be looking at an Anglo league where you play the English clubs a lot more.
100%.
Crowds have really suffered in Wales, and there's nothing really that excites them. But a Welsh English playing Bath, Llanelli playing Bath, or any of the likes of the Harlequins or whatever, it regenerates a lot of enthusiasm. Wales, England passion, they love it. Including, you can bring the Scottish and the Irish into this as well. I think we need to have a British type of league. I don't think England will agree to it because the Premiership is going so well. That's the hard thing to try and break. But we need to get in there so that we can sort of reinvigorate rugby again in Wales.
God's absolutely right. I think you're putting the regional rugby's failed, Ben. If there was a failure, the biggest mistake we made back at the start of the century was jumping into bed with the Irish and Scottish, I'm sorry to say, which has now become Italy's and South Africa and so on, you know, because you've got away trips which simply aren't attractive. You know, the Scarlets hammered by, like, I think it was the Lions, was out in South Africa last couple of weeks. Who is going to go out to South Africa on a regular basis to watch a game of club rugby? It's in front of empty stadiums. You need
ridiculous.
English, they were getting criticised, the Scarlets, for having a half-filled. Well, it wasn't even a half-filled stadium out in. Who's going to travel to South Africa, Ben?
Exactly. It's like in this climate to expect fans to pay that much money to go. It's bonkers. Absolutely.
You know, when you got nothing to play for, and Gordon's right. An Anglo-English, an Anglo-Welsh league at the time would have been the way to go. I fear it's too late now. I'm not aware of that provision even being on the table.
It may be too late, Fraser. I agree with you, but they've got to try. They've got to try and open that door to get in there and make some sort of headway into an Anglo league. They need to do it because Wales is suffering desperately. Not that England will care about that too much.
I do want to ask the impact this could have on Pembrokeshire players, because Pembrokeshire has provided some great Scarlets, and Peter Morgan to Josh McLeod to Dom Day, of course, over the years. What do you think, Fraser? Pembrokeshire has always had a good relationship, I think, with the Scarlets on the whole. And it's given players that aspiration to go and play regional rugby. If we were to lose that particular region, what happens to that?
This isn't going to be a popular view, I don't think, but I don't think this is a bad thing. And what I'm about to say now doesn't just relate to Pembrokeshire, it relates to a lot of areas in Wales. I think there are too many substandard players now across the 4 teams in Welsh Rugby. You need to, as I've mentioned there, you need to streamline the talent. Look, Ben, the best Pembrokeshire players, the elite Pembrokeshire players, will always make it. The cream will rise to the top. They have to these days. It's not like the old days where you have to play one good game at a trial, or you have to play in front of the right selector, or know the right selector, maybe good, you know what I'm talking about there, to get noticed at a high level. Now you've got videos, you've got scouts.
I don't know what you mean.
You've got scouts everywhere. You've got scouts everywhere. You've got academy coaches, watching all types of game. You've got people in system at an early age. If you are good enough, you will be picked up. All right. What this might mean is less players who aren't necessarily good enough get picked up. But I think at the moment we've gone to extreme. We have gone too extreme with youngsters before they've even developed in rugby, being put into academies before.
You went through it.
Based on size,
let's say it. There was
stature.
Nothing wrong with the school's youth system.
No.
In fact, there was a lot of players came through that system, and it worked. Then we decide to go professional and bring out these academies that are going to make our players even better.
Yeah.
It's gone backwards, Ben.
And we're going to academies too early.
Backwards.
They're going to academies too early. And I think, Ben, I hope I'm right here, that what this will do, if there is a team cut in the West, is it'll mean less players from our area perhaps making it to professional level, but the ones who are worthy of it will still go.
Yeah, the cream, as you said, the cream will always rise to the top.
What is the ones who perhaps don't merit it, who aren't going to bring anything to elite level professional rugby in Wales, perhaps won't. But that's not a bad thing, because I think across the 4 teams at the moment, we've got too many players that we need to go to.
All right, crystal ball time then. 2 years from now, will rugby still be being played at Parker Scarlets?
The women's team, yeah.
Yes. yes.
I will say it will. Yeah.
What will the team be called that play there?
The Scarlets.
West Wales Hawks, what do they call them?
Ospreys.
West is best.
Yeah. No, it's hard to see, but look, it's filtering down at the moment. It's filtering down into the amateur game, and we've still got this ridiculous situation until this changes. There's always going to be problems. The WRU are board a £100 million business in charge of an amateur and a professional game. The amateur game needs a separate board, because at the moment the problems of the professional game are just filtering down. Resources from the professional game are being spent on the amateur game as well. They're being drained, And like we've spoken about the cup competitions before, haven't we? Called up Pembrokeshire sides. Whitland were another one who didn't go on Saturday. No excuse for that in my opinion. But there were 18 ties given his walkover. This is in the first round stage, the second round.
It's happening season every season. It's a regular basis.
You're talking for amateur players a few games away from the Principality Stadium, some of them, a once in a lifetime giving walkover. And it's rotten to the core at the moment, from top to bottom, and you need to split that. So until you split that, I'm always going to envisage problems throughout.
All right, just to push you then, final question, then we will take a break. Do you think we will see some sort of merger between the Scarlets and the Ospreys? Is that what you think it will look like? Because based on what we know from the WRU,
maybe left with no choice. Maybe left with no choice.
Well, because of the language and the fact that its licenses up for grab, a conglomerate could come in and just take over all the resources. This is also a ridiculous thing with the language they're using and this lack of clarity.
Because the dating situation, the most likely scenario for me was that you would keep the Scarlets base. You have to, because it's only the brewery field, right? But keeping the Scarlets name and asking the Ospreys to be swallowed up is a very, very big request.
Yeah, and actually, just on that point, Tom, you are right. Just to finish this, if there is no consensus, the WRU say they will open a tender process. So 3 licenses, and people will have to bid for them. And we might. I wouldn't rule it out based just on what Fraser's just said as well.
I said earlier, the WRU were bottled out on the decision, prolonged it another 2 years, waiting for somebody to say, "Oh, we should do this or should do that."
Okay.
That's what they're doing. They didn't make a decision. They had a chance to change Welsh Rugby. They didn't take the opportunity.
All right, I'd love to do this debate again. So we should say, if anyone from the WRU ever wants to come on, more than welcome. And we didn't put them.
See that one either.
Good luck with that.
No, we should also say we didn't invite them tonight. So we were just discussing this based on what came out last week, but we would put that invitation out there. I think we'd love to have anyone from the WRU come on and really get into this. And I think you get some great reaction from Pembrokeshire people as well to this, and it's one that I think will go on and on and on. Great debate, guys. We're going to come back for the final part. We will, I think, have a look ahead at some of those West Wales Cup games that Gordon and I went through as well last week on the show, and just a few things that happened in the world of Pembrokeshire football this weekend to look at as well. Final part of Pure West Sports is next.
Is it itchy? Is it dry? It's so